Good morning, ladies. If you can find your seat, we have a fantastic day, but we need to begin on time. We still have some people getting food. But let me begin by saying, on behalf of my co-chair, Jessica Parrish, and the Department of Philanthropy, I welcome you to our November 2017 Women in Philanthropy Symposium. You are a unique, passionate group of women committed to the students at the University of Kentucky, and I applaud you for that. So give yourself a hand. 3 years ago, when I was the membership chair, we had a little motto, and we had at that time 161 members, which meant that we had $161,000 to give to our students. We're almost at 300. I'm thrilled to tell you that we are at 286. So how about that? So we have 51 days left to get 14 new members of Women in Philanthropy. So I know that each of you has friends, 1, 2, 3 friends that you could call between now and December 31st, and I am begging you. I'm not encouraging you, I am begging you to call so that we can meet our goal of 300, because it does mean that we then have $300,000 to award to our students. And to date, ladies, we have given over $1.6 million to change the lives of our students. How about that? Woohoo! Yes, yes. And today you get to participate in that decision for the coming year. Today you're going to hear from the deans and some students of the top 10 presentations. Now I will tell you, some years the requests are not so good. Some years some of the requests are bad. Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies, this year the requests were over the moon. They were all so good. It was very difficult for the Leadership Council to vote and bring to you today the top 10. So I ask for your diligence, your concentration, and your very best judgment as we collectively vote to award this money. So at this time, if you look at your name tags, our new members have a star on their name tag. We have 41 new members in 2017. So if you, yes, amen and amen. If you have joined us this year, I would ask that you stand, please, and be recognized. Awesome, yay. We truly appreciate you seeing our vision and supporting what we're doing here through Women in Philanthropy. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. I do want to tell you that we will have 5 presentations prior to lunch, and then you will have the opportunity to ask questions, and we will have an opportunity to discuss what we have heard, just to make sure there's no additional need for clarification, and make sure that everyone has understood what is being requested. So there will be time for that. At this time, I need to recognize, where's Teresa Hart? She is out at the front desk. I tell you what, we have a real tremendous staff in the Department of Philanthropy that looks after us. Teresa has put your whole packet together today. She's worked diligently on everything we're doing. So where is Teresa? Teresa, come out. Where are you back there? There she is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Teresa, for all you do. And then, of course, we know that Paula Pope is our quarterback. We know that she keeps us in line. We also know that she's retiring. We haven't quite got our heads around that yet. But we will have to vote on it, so she may or may not be here in 2018. We'll have to think about it and let her know. But Paula, thank you. So you all know Paula. You did see on your agenda that there are tickets to bounce, 4 tickets available to bounce. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be tomorrow night. I can't wait, actually. But you understand that's the basketball opera with Everett's program, and he was already rehearsing months ago and been to New.
Philanthropy did help finance.
Yes.
Philanthropy are a big part of the success of the Bounce Opera, which is the first opera on a basketball court. There will be a game, and don't be too rigid about the scoring. Because I know you UK basketball fans are going to go, no!
Yeah, right.
They're also singers, so. But it's a lot of fun, and it's sort of like a Hamilton on a basketball court at Calvary Baptist Church.
Yeah. So if you want 4 tickets, they're available. See Paula about that. All right, I would also like to thank the retiring members of our Leadership Council. Our Leadership Council service is for a 3-year term. So if you are here as I call your name, would you please stand? This is the retiring class from 2015. Joni Fowler, Vicki Gorman, Kathy Jansen, stand and remain standing, please. Lindy Carnes, Mary Jane Key. See, the one thing they've learned, you got to sit in the front when you're on. No. Sheila Key. Got one in the back row back there. Margot McCullers and Becky Mobley. And then our past co-chair, Ruth Webb Kelly. Did I see her come in? There you are. Stand, please. And membership co-chair, Sandy Patterson. Did Sandy come in? Ladies, is she coming? No. Okay. Thank you so much for what you did during the last 3 years. So our 2018 Leadership Council we need to approve. That is the one little item of business we need to take care of this morning. So as I read your name from the class of 2018, will you please stand if you're here? Kathy Doyle, Jane Fletcher, Linda Gorton, Laura Hieronymus, Nancy Little, Vicki McVeigh, Stacy Robertson, Pam Ziegler, Sherry Simpson, and Donna Wittenberg. And they will be coming in for 3 years beginning in 18. And then we need to also approve our 2018 program co-chairs, Marby Schlabel and Nellie Wilkinson. You all are both here. I saw you. So will you all please stand, Marby? And there you go. Okay. And then our 2018 membership co-chairs, Tanya Parsons and Lynn Thieneman. So thank you all and welcome and congratulations. Is there anything else that I don't know about that we need to discuss before we get into our presentations? We will see if our first one is out there. Now, in your packet on the right side are all of the presentations numbered in order that you will hear them. Yes, and they're numbered at the top. The ranking sheet, what color is the ranking sheet? Is that the bright yellowish green? Yeah, we asked for pastel colors. Didn't we do well with pastel colors? So you can make notes on each of the presentations, and then you will do your final tally on the ranking sheet. So Paula's gone to see if they're out here. Jessica, you want to come now and you want to introduce these?
Okay, our first presentation's from the College of Agriculture, and it's Vanessa Jackson.
Thank you. Good morning. As she said, I'm Vanessa Jackson from the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. My presentation today is entitled Exposing Underrepresented Populations in Retailing and Tourism Management to International Cultures and Business Environments. The overall goal of this proposal is to increase the number of underrepresented populations in the retailing and tourism management industry. So presently, we in the Department of Merchandising, Apparel, and Textiles and Hospitality Management and Tourism, we provide programs every year for students to travel abroad. And we make it a very important part of our student learning and experiential exposure as well. So, excuse me. So we focus on first generation students attending college. I'm sorry, I didn't see the little goodie here. So at the University of Kentucky, and in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment, we are focused in our student population on first generation college students attending the university in our area. And we know that 15.5% of our population in the college is first generation, first time a person attended college in their family. We also know that 7% of African American students in the college, we have 7% of African Americans in our college and 4% Hispanic. So the university's population exists at 10% of these populations, so we're pretty close right now. And if you look at the pictures here, these represent students who have actually traveled abroad to Italy, to Florence, Italy, to London, to Paris, and we do have students in our hospitality management program that have traveled to Greece, to Puerto Rico, and some other countries. And I'll share with you some of the comments from the students. And like I just said, I'm ahead of myself. One of the other programs that we have every year is to make sure at least 20 students are able to travel to New York. We are not able to provide full funding, but we do provide at least $500 to $1,000 of funding to the students. Now, how do we do that? We generate funds through our summer school classes, and most of that money comes back to the college, to our department. And what we do with that is cover expenses for graduate students, and whatever is left, I make sure that that money is set aside for students to travel. This coming spring, we'll have a program going to New York City 2 times. First time is a group in January that will attend the National Retail Federation program, and they will attend the whole event plus an event that is specifically for them on that Saturday. Now, we are able to get money from the National Retail Federation to pay for scholarships for 2 students. So you can see that we do spend a lot of time trying to find money for our students. Excuse me. Oops. Okay. So why should we be considered for this grant? Our record for creating and implementing yearly trips are outstanding compared to other departments in the college and across the university. We really work hard to find funds for our students. We want to increase the number of underrepresented students that participate in these programs. And one thing we have found that some of these students have never flown, They've never been out of the state of Kentucky. And if they attend the university, those that are from outside of Kentucky have never been anywhere else other than Kentucky. So their exposure, thank you, their exposure is very limited. And imagine a young lady or a young man that comes to you and say, Dr. Jackson, I'm really wanting to go on this trip, but I'm totally afraid of flying. You know, I've never been on a plane. And then when they get to go to England and these other places, and they come back and they're so excited about seeing the world and seeing that there are other people who are different from us. So here are some comments from some students that have traveled. The first one is Nick. He traveled to Italy, and he said, receiving scholarship money was a vital piece of my budgeting. Without that money, it's very unlikely I would have been able to afford the once-in-a-lifetime educational experience. And then Sydney said, thank you so much for the scholarship. I am beyond excited for this class study and, of course, the trip to New York City. And one other student said, Italy was a life-changing experience for me, and without the scholarship money, I wouldn't have been able to go. I learned so much more about myself and how things work within the industry globally, and it was an experience that I will never forget. And this was a graduate student who is one of our great accomplishments. Aslan has attended, this is her second year in graduate school, and Aslan had never been outside of the town where she lived. She went to college there, and she had never been exposed to being in a predominantly white environment, and so she was totally closed off. You know, she would not talk, and we would talk to her about, you know, making yourself comfortable in an environment that is different but is good, and trying to help her to learn how to talk to people, and talking to her about what, you know, what she can become, not to be closed-minded to where she can go. Aslan has a 3.8 average, and we were able to provide her full support to go on this study tour to South Korea, and it was amazing to her. So we say that classrooms, not all classrooms have to have 4 walls. So how does this help the students in their curriculum and graduation? The last thing that I wanted to say to you, that these trips are not just a tour. These trips are connected to a class. Students are required to enroll in a 3-credit class, and throughout the semester, they are to do assignments. And if it is to a particular country, say Florence, Italy, then they have assignments throughout the semester that are connected to learning about this country and the industry. The students receive a grade, and this is considered an elective, and it is established just like any other class. There's a syllabus, there's assignments, you know, they get a grade, and they are required to complete all these. So sometimes we travel, the class is embedded in the semester, which means they would go on spring break. So they are required to participate in that part, but prior to that, they have assignments and meet as groups and work with study abroad office to help them to learn about the new environment and how to carry themselves while they're abroad. But now we're focusing more on going right after graduation at the end of the semester, because we find that we can stay longer. They can learn more about the culture, also as well as the business industry. So we are proud of our accomplishments, and we hope that you will consider us this year with this grant. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. We still have some programs. Some faculty prefer to go during spring break, but this last year and this spring, we're going to try going right after graduation. Because, yes, it'll be almost close to 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am. No, we always make sure we have 20 students. And we find that underrepresented populations don't go because, one, they've never been out of the country, and two, most likely they don't have the money. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Well, actually, we do have a program that goes to Ghana, and we have connections there with a young man who used to be in our department. And so we have the UK kitchen there. We have a school there that is supported by our school. So, but it's hard to get students to go there. It's a lot more expensive. And so usually what we try to do is provide funding for one student to attend. And then we have another program in the college that goes to South Korea, and they stay for almost 3 weeks. So we're not able to completely fund or provide scholarships to more than one student, so it's better to provide scholarships for maybe one student or pay for a faculty. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we have a person that we work with who design the programs, but before they go, this is established just like a class. So they will be required to participate in all the tours that are part of the program. So when they go, there are established relationships with businesses that we tour. We have some cultural events that, like museums, those kinds of things. So there's specific to education and specific to culture. So they're not permitted to not participate in any part when we're in that country. Anything else? Yes? Okay. But for me, it's a great exposure because I can remember the first time that I traveled abroad, and I was so naive about being, that everybody's the same. We eat the same. We all, and so learning about other countries' food and what's important to them and learning about the cultures is very important. Thank you again. That's my exit.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'd like to introduce Cassie Snodgrass. Right here's Cassie.
Nice to meet you all.
She's one of our fabulous students that just graduated in May. That's a big part of the work that we're going to talk to you about today. Oh, let me just get myself organized here with a little clicky. So, I am passionate about impacting learning experiences of our students through HCATS, for Health Colleges Advancing Team Skills. This is a program we started last year in partnership with UK Center for Interprofessional Health Education. This year, more than ever, our targeted area of need starts right here on day one with our students. Last year, the University of Kentucky established 4 pillars of success for students: academic success, health and wellness, belonging and engagement, and financial stability. What we bring to you today will impact all 4 pillars for our students. We propose an intensive weekend training for cultivating practices for resiliency, among interprofessional health education students from the colleges of medicine, nursing, pharmacy, dentistry, social work, and health sciences. Why do we want to do this? Moral resiliency is essential to optimize patient and family-centered care delivery. We are at a critical state with the mental health of our college students. At the national level, 1 out of 6 are depressed, 1 out of 3 are on psych mental health medications, and 1 out of 4 have self-injured. The data is just as concerning when you look right here locally. Last fall, we surveyed 160 first semester nursing students. 27% reported being on psych mental health medications, and 30% reported having a psych mental health diagnosis. And very few knew about the university resources that we have in place for help. That is what sparked a student-driven initiative in a psych mental health nursing course last semester, of which Casey Snodgrass was a part, and her picture's right there in front of you. And you'll hear a little bit more from her at the end. Students actually developed the SMASH program, or the SMASH project, which stands for Student Mentors, Advocating for Student Health. We know now that students are coming into our university already stressed. Then they all go through rigorous programs of study, which causes more stress. And then they walk into our healthcare workforce that is also stressed. We have a nursing shortage nationally and in our state as well. We have 9.9% RN vacancy rate in Kentucky and a 16.5% RN turnover rate in Kentucky. And both of those are higher than the national rates. Look closely and you will see that the numbers continue to escalate. In 2013, 500,000 RNs left the profession. 60% were burnt out. And now in 2017, 50% of nurses, and that's actually over 2 million RNs, report being emotionally exhausted, and 25% report being clinically depressed. And this is just not the nursing workforce that is stressed and burnt out. 400 physicians take their lives per year, and also 25% of all new health professionals that are hired leave the position within the first year of hire. We cannot ignore these statistics, and the question must be called: who is going to take care of us? This is us, Women in Philanthropy members at Dr. Capilouto's and Mary Lynn's home just this last semester. Who's going to take care of us? Will we have resilient healthcare providers or burned out healthcare providers or missing in action healthcare providers? We need to intervene now to make a difference and help our students be focused on how to apply mindfulness practices to be resilient healthcare providers. There are two kinds of mindfulness. There is mindful of all the clutter and noise in our world today, or mindful with more focus and full presence without judging, just simply being. Isn't this who you would want caring for you or your loved ones? A provider that attends to the ordinary, the obvious, and is fully present. We do a great job educating our students and training our students how to manage not only the complexities in healthcare delivery today, but disasters such as tragic shootings and bombings. We do a great job, but we do not do a great job with the basics of self-care in order to take care of others. So we propose taking a weekend to pause. We believe that could make a huge difference. We proposed reflecting and also moving away from the university's excitement of learning and living. We propose 160 students from 6 health profession colleges to go to the CPR camp at Shaker Village for intensive mindfulness training. This would be the first time nursing and other health profession students would actually train together right up the road. This would be in a space where we will be able to cultivate practices for resiliency by mindfulness-based, stressful, resilient certified physicians, and who will help our students learn how to relax the body, open the mind, and open the heart. For a little over $40,000, we will also be looking at this opportunity for the training for our students for mindful breathing, eating, sitting, and walking, values-based communication, and narrative expression, and body scanning. This funding would be able to help cover the costs for lodging, meals, and weekend training for 5 cohorts of 20 students each over the spring and summer in 2018. I'd like to ask you to listen to this video. This is a nurse that has earned national recognition for the impact of mindfulness training by a simple technique called the pause. This is the ultimate outcome for our students to be able to learn and apply in patient care delivery settings.
My name is Jonathan Bartels. I've been a nurse for 18 years, been in healthcare for 28. For 11, or mostly half of my career, I was a trauma nurse at a level 1 trauma center. I've since moved on. I'm now a palliative care liaison. But during my time in trauma, I created a concept called the pause. So the pause is a practice of just honoring someone who's passed and using silence to do it. It's nothing hard. It's not brain science. So before I did the pause and before I started to really implement it, you know, man, I would be banging to save a life. You know, doing the compressions, doing what I had to do. And then when we call it, we'd have to move on. And I would have to just walk away. And what I would do at that point would simply just be to leave that room and walk out and go to the next one. And take care of the next patient. It was difficult, you know, sometimes because I'd still be remembering what I'd done in the room before, and it would also affect, you know, how I'd interact, because this person coming in and they feel like they got legit suffering. They don't know what you just walked away from. But for me, it gave me a little bit of an edge, and I wanted some way to deal with that edge in a constructive way, but I knew that my people around me were also dealing with it, and they didn't necessarily have a voice. Instead of just walking away after it happens, or turning away from the body and turning away from the situation, we stop and we take a moment. You know, before we leave, could we just honor this person in the bed? Before all this went down, this person was alive. This person had a life. And now they're not here anymore. And let's also just, in silence, honor the work that we did, the efforts we put in, the care we provided for this person. And in our own way and in silence, take 45 seconds and just stand as a shared group and do this pause. And it gives us a chance to stop and just be present with that, so that we can put it down, so that we can walk away and walk into the next room and see our next patient or get our next call and go to that next call, be present for that person, and not just see them as a problem, but to see them as a person too.
We think HCATS to CPR Camp is innovative and cutting edge, and more important, critically needed to help our students learn skills to cope, bounce back, and stay on track for academic student success. Let's hear what Cassie thinks about the program.
Thank you, Dean Heath. Hello, my name is Cassie Snodgrass. I'm a recent UK College of Nursing alum. I graduated this past May and currently work in labor and delivery at UK Healthcare. While I do love my job dearly, mental health disorders continue to influence my practice more and more every day. It influences my coworkers as well. I began to realize this in nursing school. During my last year of study at UK, my friends and I sat around after an exam and began to speak about mental health issues our fellow students face. It only took one conversation to drive us into developing SMASH. As Dean Heath stated, SMASH stands for Student Mentors Advocating Student Health. To continue the SMASH program, HCATS to CPR Camp will allow our nursing student leaders to build the resiliency and mindfulness skills needed to pass on to younger nursing students. This program has the ability to change hundreds of students' lives at UK. I wish we had developed this program when I was a student. Nursing school is stressful. The program was stressful, clinicals are stressful, and then after that, our careers are stressful. I was one of those stressed students, and I would have benefited greatly, improving my care and compassion that I give to patients each and every day. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our proposal.
Glad to take any questions at this time? Yes.
After the weekend experience, is there any other get-together, formal or informal, that these students have a chance to then re-practice the skills that they learned?
I think that that would be very important for us to build that in as part of the program, to touch base with them and to make sure that that experience was as wonderful as we had hoped it would be. That looks like something that we can probably very easily manage internally, to circle back all the students that attended to see what worked, what did not, what we need to be doing different for this kind of experience, and then to help support them to go into their individual colleges to start applying those skills.
Okay, but so that would be on an individual basis with the participant then from you all. There's no plan to get these students back together again for an evening or some kind of post-experience as a group?
We had not planned that, but that's a great idea. Thank you for that. I think I saw far in the back the hand that went up first. I'm sorry, did you say you were from where? Yes. So I know the College of Dentistry has started doing a little bit in their curriculum with mindfulness, but to be able to pull all the health profession student leaders together to actually learn this skill set, this is the first that I know about, certainly here at the University of Kentucky, and as far as I know, I don't know of any other place that's doing it at this magnitude. As you know, we have a wonderful resource here at the University of Kentucky, 18 colleges, of which we've got 6 health profession colleges right here, where all of our students can come together. So I am not aware of anyone else doing this. Yes. So actually right now, I'm just aware of nursing, medicine, and dentistry. They already have a structure of student leaders that in each group is called something different, but that would be our starting point to look at our student leaders in our colleges that have this interest to be able to really impact the health and wellness of their colleagues, their student peers. So we would start with the student leaderships first. And this is in partnership with the Center of Interprofessional Health Education, so that makes it a nice match to help do the recruitment so that we can get the full capacity and the resources that we need to support these efforts. Yes. Well, you gonna let me rewrite my proposal and I'll look at it, we can up the funding. Of course, as you know, there's a cost, but just like the great fortune that we had last year with this group selecting us for HCATs to Appalachia to make an impact with those children in eastern Kentucky. We just finished that, and we just got confirmation yesterday that that will be a sustainable program. So, we've got to go out there and try it, pilot, and see what kind of outcomes we have and what kind of impact we're making so that we can make this sustainable here at the University of Kentucky. And just training the leaders who will then, it's like train the trainers, so that we're hoping we can disseminate it in those ways and start building a more structured, formal program to impact the university at large. We've heard from our students, we've got wonderful resources here at the university, but if you think about it, just a few steps to ask for help makes a big difference than having to walk from the College of Nursing to where the President's building is, where our student services are located now, in Funkhauser. So if we can look at coordinating more of our efforts on the health profession side of the campus of the university, that's going to be tremendous help, tremendous help. Oh, thank you, yes. There's certainly a lot of national leaders out there that are board certified with mindfulness stress reduction training, but we have got wonderful talent right here that individuals don't even know about. Our own Dr. Connie Jennings, Dr. John Patterson. There is a plethora of talent here at the university, and that's, this is no surprise. We are so large and so complex. There's pockets of greatness that's happening all the time, and everyone doesn't know about it. So how can we do more coordinated, integrated efforts? And we're seeing success by doing that through the Center of Interprofessional Health Education. So, but to answer your question, we're going locally, but the talent we've got here, they're superstars. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. Pet therapy, we've got so much richness here. We just have to make sure that our students know it, our faculty know it, and it becomes part of our daily education experience. It's built in our curriculum. Yes. Actually, we already have started a partnership working on some things. She's actually building an integrative health clinic, and she had several of her units that needed a place to go while they're doing their renovation. And so we've partnered with her and her teams to start doing things in our College of Nursing for some space that we have dedicated for these types of purposes, for the yoga and Tai Chi and some other things that are planned. So yes, absolutely. We are like that. We are like best friends. It takes a village to get this done. Okay, thank you all very much.
Our next presenter, there he is from the College of Fine Arts. This is John Nardolillo, who is the director of our orchestra from the School of Music.
Good morning. I didn't realize there would be such a big screen here. Next time I'll be presenting in IMAX, but for today it's just me. I originally, just a moment ago, was thinking I would say how happy I am to be here, but I actually don't like giving this talk to this group because when I start talking about our students and the way that the the funding from Women in Philanthropy impacts them, I get emotional and I get a lump in my throat and I have a hard time getting through my remarks and talking about the students. And I think, am I going to be able to finish this, or am I just going to be up here crying? And you'll go home and, how was your day, honey? Well, the orchestra director cried on us again this year. Anyway, thank you for being part of this, of the Women in Philanthropy organization. Your involvement and your contribution makes a huge difference at the university for the groups that you're supporting. I assume, based on hearing, the other people who you supported, that this is true for all the groups, but for our group in particular, these dollars go a long way. They go directly to our students, and we are cultivating underserved students with these funds, and it makes a huge and profound difference for them. So we are, at the UK Symphony, we're asking for funds to do 4 different things. The first is that we are asking for funds to take the orchestra on buses out into the underserved parts of Kentucky to play concerts in schools. And this is valuable for the students that are in the orchestra, but it's also really valuable for the students that we're playing for. Here in Lexington, we have a very lively arts community and many opportunities for young people like my children, elementary school kids, to hear orchestras or see plays or see musicals or see artwork, but that's not true all over Kentucky. And one of my favorite, we have done this in many different places around Kentucky, but I remember going to Hazard and playing in the high school there, and they brought kids from the surrounding schools, and we played several concerts over the course of the day in the high school auditorium. And out of the several thousand kids that we played for, I asked at each concert, how many of you have heard an orchestra before? And I think we played for almost 2,000 students, and really only 3 or 4 of them had ever heard an orchestra in person before. And it's the kind of impact that's hard to quantify, but it makes a big difference for those students to be able to hear that. And it's also valuable for our students. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we are asking for funds to give service scholarships to students in the orchestra program to assist in administering the orchestra program. So these scholarships provide the opportunity for those students to get involved in and learn about the orchestra management side. In some ways, it's an excuse to help students that need a little extra help. But it's also been very valuable for some of our students, and a number of the students who have gotten this award from these Women in Philanthropy grants have gone into arts administration as a field and gone on to work for some of the United States' big orchestras. The third thing we are asking for is help with operating funds for a non-majors orchestra, which we started about 2 years ago. And so the UK Symphony is sort of the big orchestra on campus with the music majors in it. But we also have a non-majors orchestra which meets once a week. It's a little bit less, you don't have to practice 3 hours a day for 10 years to get in and that kind of thing. And it's valuable for students who are coming to the University of Kentucky from places where they didn't have strong music programs and they didn't have a chance to have private lessons, and some of the less advanced students who still want to be involved in music. And then finally, we are asking for funds that we will use to give travel grants, travel research grants to underserved students to participate in international performance opportunities. So we've been able to help students go overseas, mostly during the summer, to participate in music festivals and things like that. And I'm sure you know that that kind of experience, spending a month in Europe, for example, performing and meeting kids from around the world and living in a different culture, that can be a life-changing experience. The University of Kentucky Symphony Orchestra, we are aspiring to be what's called a thick organization. It's a term that I read about. David Brooks, a columnist in the New York Times, wrote about it. And it means that you're an organization that has a lasting, lifelong influence on the students that are participating in your group. It's not just a class they take that they forget about afterwards. You know, in our organization, the students join the orchestra often the fall of their freshman year, and then they're often in the orchestra all the way through when they graduate. And so we have the opportunity to get to know them very deeply and for them to become very attached. And of course, when you are making music with your colleagues every day and playing deep, passionate, beautiful music that's about the human condition and about what it means to be alive and to love other people and all that kind of stuff. When you're doing that day after day for years with the same people, you get very attached to that. David Brooks wrote, "A thick institution is not one that people use instrumentally to get a degree or to earn a salary. A thick institution becomes part of a person's identity and engages the whole person, head, hands, heart, and soul." So we are hoping at UK Symphony that the way we're organizing our class and the orchestra, that it will have that kind of effect on our students, and I think it does. So I want to tell you briefly just about a couple of our students who've come through our program who have received Women in Philanthropy grants and tell you a little bit about how it's affected them. I have a folder at home with dozens of these. The funds really make a difference in these students' lives. But I'll just tell you a couple and then I'll take some questions. One of our students came to us to get a master's degree and is just finishing her doctorate. I'm actually signing the paperwork later this morning that she's completely finished. She was an orphan, is an orphan. She's a star pupil, but didn't have family support and didn't have the money to go to graduate school. And we were able to give her an assistantship to come to UK, and she has been one of our top star students, the kind of student that when we play a concert, I get letters from members of the audience saying that they were watching this student play and, asking about her. She got a Women in Philanthropy grant to travel to Prague to participate in the Prague Summer Nights program, of which I'm the artistic director. And it's a summer opera and orchestra festival in Prague and Salzburg where we are presenting orchestra concerts and opera over the course of a month and playing in the Estates Theater where Mozart conducted the premiere of Don Giovanni. It's the only theater left standing that Mozart conducted in. It's where they filmed Amadeus. So anyway, we have a very exciting program there with about 100 students from 22 different countries. In any case, we gave this student a grant to go to that program, which she did. And while she was there, she met one of our clinicians, was the former concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic under Leonard Bernstein. So a great violinist who's now living and teaching in London and considered one of the great teachers, violin teachers. So she met him and they made a connection, and he invited her to go to London to work with him. We gave her another grant to help her do that. So she went for 2 months and worked with him in London. And the outcome of all that is she was awarded a fellowship for postdoctoral studies at Oxford, where she is right now. And none of that would have happened without the Women in Philanthropy grant. Another student for whom this funding has had a big impact is a student who came from Eastern Kentucky, from quite a poor background, and she heard the UK Symphony when we went on one of the school tours that the Women in Philanthropy funds support, and we played a concert in her school, and she played the double bass, and as a result of our visit, she came and introduced herself, and we started recruiting her to come to UK. No one in her family had been to college before, and her family wasn't really supporting that, and when we were recruiting her, I had to call her high school orchestra director on the phone at the high school because her family didn't have a phone or email or anything like that. So when I wanted to reach her, I had to call the high school. Anyway, she did come to UK, and she told me when she arrived that Lexington was the biggest city she'd ever seen or ever been in. She joined the UK Symphony, and in about the third or fourth week of the semester, I guess it was in November, so maybe eight or so weeks into her freshman year, we took the orchestra to Carnegie Hall to play with Arlo Guthrie in New York City. So she came on that trip and played there, and of course she hadn't been to New York before, but I was very proud of the fact when I was meeting the bus when it arrived in New York with the orchestra kids on it, and the kids, the bus stopped near the backstage door at Carnegie Hall on 7th Avenue, and the kids were getting off the bus and very excited to be there, but I remember her getting off the bus and then turning and looking down 7th Avenue into Times Square, and she just had an expression of, wonder on her face. She had never seen that before. So the Women in Philanthropy funds are supporting her to be able to stay in school. She is currently earning a 4.0 at UK, which is fantastic. And then the last student I'll tell you about, well, I have more, but I'll tell you one more. A student who came to the orchestra as a violinist, and then in the course of playing violin at UK, got interested in the arts administration side, and she came to me and said, I would be interested in working for the orchestra on some administrative things, the orchestra, library, or so on. So she started doing that because she was interested in it, but she was quite good at it and got more and more involved in it, and eventually we gave her a Women in Philanthropy grant to help us run a school outreach tour to Muhlenberg County, where we were playing in the schools. So she organized everything. The next thing she helped us do was organize our tour to China, which she was very involved in. Because she had been involved in the tour to China, the National Symphony in Washington, D.C. gave her an internship at the Kennedy Center. So she went to the Kennedy Center and worked for them. And told them about her experience here at the University of Kentucky with the orchestra and helping run the tour to China. Well, someone at the NSO got a job shortly after that with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, which was getting ready to go on a tour to China. So they called and they hired her. And she became the youngest member of the Los Angeles Philharmonic organization right out of school here at UK. And so she worked there for about 5 years, and she's now back in Kentucky where she's been the operations director of the Louisville Orchestra. But anyway, she wrote me a note and said, so she's another example of someone, without the Women in Philanthropy funds, we wouldn't have been able to support her in the way that we did. And in the cases of these students, the funding operates, it's sort of like a lever or a spring for them. It propels them into something else. She wrote me a note when she got to Los Angeles, and it said, I'm going to read it to you, then I'll take some questions. She said, my time as a student in the University of Kentucky Symphony Orchestra was the single most influential and inspiring aspect of my undergraduate career. My fellow hardworking musicians, our dedicated conductor, and our devoted professors inspired a love of music that has been inextinguishable, not just in my life, but in the lives of all of those who've been fortunate enough to be part of this outstanding organization. The UK Symphony taught me that life is best enjoyed when filled with music, inspiring me and countless others to pursue a career in the orchestral field. Kirsten Quick is her name, Arts Administration Class of 2013, Orchestra Management of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. So, again, our activities that we are hoping to fund with Women of Philanthropy funds are school concerts in underserved areas of Kentucky, service scholarships for students to help us with arts administration and for them to learn arts administration, operating funds for the non-majors orchestra, and travel grants for underserved students, mostly from Kentucky, to be able to travel to international festivals. You know, the students from Kentucky who are, questions? Okay, I have to say one more thing, and then I'll take some questions. I'm getting the hook. Many of the students, when they are traveling from, it's for many of them, it is the first time they've been out of the state of Kentucky. For many of them, it's the first time they've been on an airplane. And so it's difficult to overstate how important it is to them and how much it can change their lives. Anyway, thank you for your support, and I'll take a few questions.
What can you tell us about the response to the non-major offers?
So the question is, what can I tell you about the response to the non-majors orchestra? The response has been great. The students, there are students on campus that are not music majors, and as I said, don't have time for, you know, the deep involvement in music that the UK Symphony has, but still want to play and want to be involved. And so those students have really liked it. That orchestra has its own audience and has very successful concerts, and I think they really have a good time, but also are making good music. So it's been actually more successful than I thought it might be. It's been quite successful. Yes?
You say 7 students for the service scholarships of $15,000. How are those students selected, and what is a service scholarship?
So the service scholarships are the scholarships where the students will work for the orchestra, for example, helping out with the orchestra library or organizing an outreach tour. And what we will do to select the students is I'll announce to the kids in the orchestra that we have these available and describe what they are. And then the students apply for them like they're a job. They will send in a resume and a little personal statement, and then I'll interview them. And you know, we'll pick the best and most serious ones that we think the funding can make the biggest difference for. Any other questions? Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your work with this organization.
Okay, ladies, our fourth presentation is from the David Palayo, Engineering Undergraduate Research Opportunity, number 4.
Thank you. 5 little letters cause so many problems. So thank you for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we're calling Europe, Engineering Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program. And the letters just worked out that way. That wasn't really a contrived acronym. So what's the point here? So the backdrop of what we're trying to address is the continuing international challenges to the U.S. preeminence in science and technology. So in the previous President's administration, the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology ran an economic forecast that said we need 1 million more graduates in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I should say that at UK, engineering, the College of Engineering encompasses 8 different departments, 10 different programs, and that includes computer science. So 1 million more graduates in the STEM fields to help maintain the US preeminence in science and technology. So, okay, that's fine. We can work on that. We can grow enrollments. The shocking red highlighted statement here in the PCAST report, as it's called, fewer than 40% of students who enter intending to receive a major in a STEM discipline actually receive that STEM discipline degree. 40%. If we could increase that 40% to 50%, which is not a huge retention in the first place, if we could bump that 40% to 15%, that would keep us on track to hit that 1 million increase in STEM disciplines, STEM degrees. So where does UK College of Engineering stand in this? So the good news is we've seen significant increases in enrollment over the past few years. 100% increase in the number of women undergraduates, third largest percentage growth of all colleges at the university. We've seen a 200% increase in the number of underrepresented minorities in the college, second largest of all colleges on campus. So that's good news, right? But remember what the challenge is. The challenge is retention. So the way that we can look at a critical point in a student's retention is the end of their freshman year, the first spring as we call it, to the first semester of their sophomore year, the first spring to second fall retention. And that's the rub. That's where the challenges begin. So we see a decrease, 18% decrease in the number of underrepresented minorities, 20% decrease in the number of women, 22% decrease in the number of students from Appalachian counties, and a 27% decrease in first-generation students staying within the College of Engineering. That doesn't mean they leave UK, but they're not staying in the College of Engineering to receive that engineering degree. So we have to step back and say, why is this happening? What are some of the questions that we can ask? How do we really address some of this retention question? How do we engage these students, these communities of students, to prevent further retention loss? How do we create that culture of longevity and permanence in engineering to be able to see himself or herself in an engineering discipline through the 4 years, 6 years, and the future career? We want to establish that culture of permanence. And ultimately, that segue is really preparing for, microphone sort of slid, preparing for that help to address U.S. preeminence in science and technology. They need to get that degree, be a practicing engineer or computer scientist to really enhance the nation's capacity for research and innovation. So the way that we're looking to help address the retention loss of students, increase the retention of these students, is to really focus on showing these students how they really belong in this discipline, to visualize themselves as a practicing engineer or a computer scientist down the line. And we do this in a couple ways. A little blend of traditional research opportunity along with a bunch of professional development activities. So on the research side of things, to start practicing the discipline of engineering or computer science early. So to get involved in an apprentice-style research experience. So you have a mentor-mentee type of relationship to really take that student under your wing and mentor or guide that student so that he or she really sees himself as an engineer or computer scientist down the line. That will involve getting that student involved in the research group, an active member of a research group, which will involve anywhere from high school students from the magnet programs around Lexington to other undergraduates, graduate students, and perhaps postdoctoral scholars being involved in that group to have that tiered mentor relationship as well. So it benefits our graduate students as well. And those students will be exposed to state-of-the-art research to really see how what they're learning in their engineering coursework, their computer science coursework, really does have application down the line. What is the state of the art? Again, tying back to how are these students in the future going to enhance our nation's capacity for research and innovation? Research is good. Seeing yourself in that profession and actually applying what you're learning, but really we want to sort of supplement that to make a more well-rounded practicing engineer, computer scientist down the line. So we propose a series of workshops that will work on augmenting, complementing what they're learning in their coursework in terms of critical reading, critical thinking skills, applying to science and technology literature, to teach communication skills, to teach in terms of presenting oral and research, the elevator pitch when they're out interviewing for positions, to be able to communicate their contributions, their potential to contribute to that company's products, their technology, their innovation moving forward, to be able to publish. Ideally, we will have students who will achieve a level of scholarship that will end up in publications in the national, international literature. And then, again, going back to that science and technology infrastructure at the US, be able to foster the entrepreneurial characteristics of many of our students in the College of Engineering. And ultimately, to be able to demonstrate a lot of that, their research experience, their communication skills, everything, in a presentation at the showcase of undergraduate scholars. So we see this starting as a pilot cohort of 6 students. We will recruit those. Keep in mind that a critical juncture is from the spring semester of the freshman year to the fall semester of the sophomore year. Recruit those students in the first spring semester of the freshman year. Use a very merit and need-based selection process that will have both quantitative and qualitative aspects. We'll have a more traditional application, personal essay, statement of purpose, have references from those students, and then have an in-person interview to understand both the merits and the intangible parts, the need-based aspects of these, keeping in mind the populations who we want to retain. Start them as a full-time researcher during the summer between their freshman and sophomore years. They will be 100% on campus in a research lab in that apprentice-style relationship, involved with that research group. And the reality is research and the College of Engineering is a year-round process. They're going to be plugged in, I won't say 24/7, but many of them will plug in 24/7 around the year-long clock. And then they're going to continue. Workload decreases, the commitment decreases during the academic year because we do not want to jeopardize their academic progress toward degree. So we back that down in a 6 to 12 hour per week workload throughout the academic year so that they can eventually have that body of work, continue those workshops, keep that intangible, those more, I don't use the term soft skills, but those transferable skills that those students will need when they leave the University of Kentucky and join the workforce. So the way we see this Europe program progressing is to have these outcomes of developing key problem-solving skills for these students, improving their communication skills, both written and verbal, to learn how to work in a collaborative team environment. That is increasingly important. I believe we all understand that. And in working amongst diverse groups within those collaborative teams. Really a key point is being able to apply what they're learning in the classroom. Math, physics, science, all those concepts being applied to the science of engineering, as some would say, in a real-world environment. Open-ended problems. The problems that are addressed in a research lab, they don't have a fixed solution. Go into the physics lab, chemistry lab, the answer is known sort of before you start. But these are open-ended problems, real-world problems, the kinds of problems they will address in their careers. And really show them that there's life beyond the lab. So these are some of our students out in the Argan courtyard having some fun. So to have that, the other parts of it, so research is good, the education is good, but really to be a well-rounded contributor when that student leaves the College of Engineering. So the key takeaways, really be able to have a different way of approaching how we engage these students. Want an immersive experience, educational and research experience for these students to keep them in the STEM fields. We're able to provide that mentorship, that apprentice style, the mentor-mentee relationship at key point in the student's career, early. So we have students who do conduct research now, a lot of students who conduct research now, but that's in their junior and senior years. Where's the attrition? The attrition happens a lot really early on. So if we can stem that loss early on by building those relationships, we have a much better chance to establish that culture of longevity and permanence in the discipline of engineering so that we can fulfill our pledge, our mission in really graduating engineers and computer scientists that will be able to contribute at UK to the Commonwealth and beyond to really help address the US infrastructure in science and technology. Thank you for your attention. Yes, ma'am.
What is the potential pool of applicants where you will be selecting 6? You've got 3 groups. What are the numbers?
Off the top of my head, Margot, you really challenged me there. I don't have an absolute number. So 100% increase over the past few years. So we have, call it 800 students coming in per year. So I would say we're in of those 3 categories, we'll call it 15-20% of the students would be in those total categories. So we're talking a good 150 to 200 students that we could probably start recruiting from. Not all of those necessarily will be the ones targeted, because it's really those at risk, right? We have a lot of students who don't fall into that loss category, that they sort of self-selected, so those who end up in honors and scholars programs. But we're looking at the students who are really at risk of leaving, so they need a proactive contact to recruit them. So the application process sounds simple, but I don't see that as likely a simple process, because there's going to be, in some ways, a hand-picking, if you will, trying to drive those students into this process, because it's easy. You struggle, just keep your head down, stay quiet, and then they slowly, quietly go away. And those are the students who we need to prevent from slowly, quietly going away. Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. The question is, why are these students at risk? Multifactorial. Some of it is there will be a classroom struggle, and then, so I'll use a personal example. So going back a long time ago, you start struggling in thermodynamics, or you struggle in physics, and it's all this book stuff, right? And you're trying to figure out, what does this have to do with what I'm going to do as a practicing engineer? So to be able to pull those students in and see, and so we've had the first year engineering big revamp of the entering of students into the disciplines of engineering and computer scientists. So you start seeing what the application is sooner rather than later. So some will struggle if we can pull them and show that there is application. So when you see that, as kids, Generation Z, right, had the leadership thing earlier in the semester, a couple weeks ago about leadership and Gen Z, you have to approach these kids differently. So we need to pull them in and show them those benefits. Some of it will be financial, and so we do offer these stipends. They have a stipend during the summer. They'll have a stipend during the salary during the academic year, so some of that need-based parts can be addressed as well. So addressing both their perspective, seeing themselves in the discipline, and then addressing some of the financial aspects. Those are 2 of the major factors. Some of them will ultimately, as you say, find that maybe engineering is not for them. And that's okay, but we're trying to address that through that first year engineering process, through the recruitment process, so they see what it is that student will do in his or her career. Yeah, that's certainly the readiness, right? The question, how ready are those students? So the question or the comment was, so students from Appalachian counties, do they have that preparation of physics and calculus? So when they are plugged in Chem Phys, they're over in the Jacob Science Builder classroom building taking those math courses, are they ready for it? And that can be a struggle. So what we've also had is that the Hardiman Center for Student Success recently opened up a couple months ago, and so there's a renewed emphasis on the tutoring. So tutoring those students as well. So this focuses on seeing the student seeing himself or herself in the discipline of engineering or computer science, but the academic part, that's the foundation on which the research and the technology will be built. So the tutoring, the mentoring of those students on the academic side cannot be overlooked. Yep. Very good. Thank you for your time.
Okay, our next proposal, it's number 5, and it's from the College of Design, Lindsay Fay and Marty Summers, the first generation professional College of Design spring break professional experience.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present our proposal, the first generation professional College of Design spring break professional experiences. We're excited to present this as this program will potentially allow some of our first generation students to participate in the spring break professional experience programs in the College of Design that previously may not have had that opportunity. So the College of Design is requesting funding for first generation students to participate in the spring break professional experience programs. These 1 to 2 week experiences expose design students to professional practice and often act as interviews for future jobs. These are housed in both the schools of architecture and interiors and are 1 to 2 week experiences in professional design firms across the United States and even in international locations. Through these experiences, participants build professional networks and gain personal relationships with people who facilitate their future goals, highlighting qualities and skills that aren't immediately apparent on their portfolio. It's a chance to network in person, get their foot in the door, and gain exposure to new practices to reinforce what they're learning here at the University of Kentucky. So if awarded, these funds, specifically designated for first-generation students, would provide opportunities for students who might have previously excluded themselves from the program for financial reasons.
Stop. We can't advance this long. Oh. Power issue. Not my equipment.
One moment.
It's guaranteed to happen sometime. I'm sorry it's you, but it's guaranteed to happen.
That's okay. Are we good? Perfect, thank you. So we have identified a number of benefits that are a direct result of participating in this experience. First, professional exposure. The students have the opportunity to take what they're learning here at the University of Kentucky and experience that out in the field. This reinforces their education so that they can better understand the skills and the value that they have in their pathways towards professionalism. Job placement is a key component to this program. A number of our students have had the opportunity to gain internships or even full-time jobs as a result of this experience. And then lastly, cultural immersion. This is a great opportunity for students from the Commonwealth to move outside of Kentucky to better understand how to navigate a big city, to work in multicultural firms, and as I said before, even international opportunities.
So, professional exposure. Our students are able to go off to these firms that tend to be at the highest level of our professions. And while they're in those offices for the 1 to 2 weeks, they're exposed to a number of things that happen in the daily life of that professional practice. In many cases, they're able to go on site visits with the offices on either currently in development projects or projects that have recently been completed. And they're able to see them firsthand and actually talk through with the professionals kind of issues of that process so that they understand what their future might look like. In many cases, they're able to sit in on client meetings to learn about business practices and to basically understand how the office is organized. I say to students before they leave, you should go and absorb as much as possible about how that particular firm works, because in the future, I'm hoping you'll have your own firm. And if that's the case, you'll have all these experiences in the background of how maybe to organize an office better, or be maybe critical of the practice you went to then understand for yourself how you want to work in the future. And the last part of that is working as a team. While we do that in school, it is critical in practice. And so these students get engaged in small and large teams depending on where they are. The reinforcement of their education. We find that a lot of our students, while they're in school, they don't actually know how some of these things are going to apply when they get out. And this is a direct confrontation with reality. When they show up in these offices, they realize that it's not okay to work in one method, such as analog or digital, that they have to be facile in both skill sets, that these firms tend to have a highly integrated workflow and technology in the way that they work, which mimics some of the things we're teaching them in studios. It also reinforces their communication skills, because in some cases they have to present things to the firm while they're there, like their portfolio or within a design team. They're reinforcing basically what we do every day in studio. And then the last part of it is they gain a lot from this. In these work environments, they gain confidence. I've had several students come back and say that they were sitting next to their peers from institutions like Yale, Harvard, Columbia, and other schools, and said that basically they felt more confident about what they understood to be the skills and how they fit into the practice than the person they were sitting next to, which gave them a tremendous sense of confidence when they came back to UK to really push harder in their pursuits. And then job placement. While this is not the specific focus of the program, it's more about the experience of those students. What we found is that once our students are in those workplaces, they tend to get opportunities, because one of the best things about the program is that when you get into that office, it's the best 2-week job interview you could have. And so things that don't show up on a resume or a portfolio are, how do you get along with others in your team? Are you able to adapt and adjust to assignments? Do you have a pleasant disposition when you're given tough tasks? Those things don't show up, and so if an office knows that, they're more likely to bring that student back. There's also, again, those kind of professional skills of team integration. We have a lot of our alumni in these offices as well, and so there's this direct relationship between a former grad and a current grad, a kind of mentoring opportunity. And then we hope that if we don't have a student in that office, that ultimately in the future we will have a student in that office, and then our alumni network will continue to grow through this program. The last part is cultural immersion. Basically, when they go to these cities, a lot of our students are from rural towns in Kentucky. And so they're not aware of how they fit in a broader landscape of the profession or the world generally. And so our hope is that when they go to these cities, they actually get to experience the kind of cultural opportunities and to also recognize that when they're in a place, I put metropolis and megalopolis at the end, when they're in a place of, say, 14 to 15 million people like Los Angeles, that they have a place in that environment and that it's not so overwhelming because now they've been there, they've experienced it, and at that point they can go anywhere in the world.
The spring break shadowing concept has been extremely successful. Our Atlanta office has participated in this for the past 6 years, and we've employed 3 designers as a result of it. 5 consecutive days in a professional office really helps the student understand when they get back to school the curriculum they're learning and how that applies to the real world. I think it makes so much more sense to them.
So that was Ed Cave. He is a principal at the firm Venadal Cave in Atlanta, Georgia, and is an advisory board member to the School of Interiors. He has been instrumental in helping to facilitate this program and, as he stated, hiring students as a result of it. I also wanted to provide some student feedback about the experience. Here you're seeing that students are stating that they're gaining confidence in the direction they're going as a designer. One of the great things about the program is that it helps students understand if this is the direction they want to go. So if they want to be in a specific field within interiors or architecture and we place them in a firm that relates to that, that can either solidify or tell them that maybe that wasn't the right path for them, but better to figure that out now than after school. Another student states that after their portfolio review with one of the principals at the firm, she started to realize that she's where she needs to be and you can only go up from here. So gaining confidence, having that opportunity to review your portfolio and get feedback and not feel that it's just an interview. So having that conversation. And then lastly, recognizing that experience is what shapes us and gives us knowledge. So the idea of experiential education, it's building upon what they're learning here at the university and reinforcing those opportunities.
And as I mentioned a minute ago, it's really the best 2-week job interview. I think what separates this program from our peer institutions is there are other programs that have kind of co-op opportunities where you go away for a semester and work in an office. That tends to extend the time period you're in school because you have to make up that time for classes. But I think one of the big advantages, and I have friends who teach at some of these peer institutions, those students come back with a very fixed mindset about how they're supposed to work now because they've now got this professional experience. In our case, for 2 weeks, you pick up enough skills to gain confidence, but you don't pick up skills to get so set in your ways that you're not still flexible and adaptable. I think the other part of that is that in many ways that 2 weeks is, say, loose in terms of commitment for both the student and the office. And so the office knows that they don't have to invest an incredible amount of time in this process, that they're there only for 2 weeks. They should show them basically the ins and outs of what they do, but the commitment is not so onerous that they don't want to then bring students in. So we find that that's a huge opportunity for us, which means we get into some of the best practices in the world. And then, of course, across the series, they get an experience at large and small firms. And so ideally, they go for 2 or 3 years while they're in the college, and then after that 2 or 3 years, they have a clearer understanding of where maybe they want to practice and what scale of firm they would like to be in.
So what you're seeing here is a visual to give you a better sense of our program's reach. So we are across the United States in all corners, Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. With the larger the circle, the greater the number of opportunities. This past year, we had 58 participants from both the Schools of Architecture and the Schools of Interiors. As I stated, this program has also had international reach with opportunities in Germany and Denmark. And again, this is the idea that it's reinforcing what they're learning here, giving them multicultural exposures and experiences. So you might be thinking that, wow, this sounds like a really great program and it sounds like, you know, everything's figured out, but there is a challenge here. It is expensive and it is not something that is funded by the college. It is funded by the students. So to give you a better sense of the expenses that the students incur, as you saw, many of our students are traveling to New York or Los Angeles with a 1 to 2 week experience, or a 1 week experience costing upwards of $2,000 for New York, and for Los Angeles, up to $2,500 when you're considering airfare and accommodations, museum visits, and food for a week. So unfortunately, the idea of privilege is something that we're faced with. And our students that are not in the same financial situation as maybe some of the other students that are in a higher financial bracket don't have that opportunity to gain the professional exposure, and therefore are not having the opportunity to get placed at jobs or internships. So this is essentially why we need funding, is to support this.
So our program relative to the university, if you look across the university, about 50% of the students in the university are first-generation students. Within the College of Design, we double that number. So we're at almost 30% in the College of Design of first-generation students. And then within our program, we almost match the college. We're getting about 23% of participants who are first-generation students. I find this to be really personal for me, mainly because I participated in the first version of this program many years ago. And in that opportunity, I realized that I can go anywhere in the world and do whatever I want to do. Returning to Kentucky, I then set my sights on Los Angeles, went to grad school at UCLA, and then participated in one of the top firms in the world for about 10 years of that 13-year period. After that, I returned to Kentucky to teach what I knew to future versions of who I see in the classroom that remind me of me. And so part of this program is to give them the experience, go off, gain that experience, and ideally bring that back to Kentucky. Because of the financial burdens, we find a lot of our students either don't even, say, ask questions about whether or not they can participate because they just assume it's out of their range. That also then limits where they set their mind for where they want to go. So they might want to go locally as opposed to nationally or internationally because they think it's in the cards. We're trying to change that. This alleviates some of the financial burden of the program if we were to receive this award, which allows more students to dream bigger. And then breaking the cycle of privilege, as Lindsay mentioned. We don't want our students to have their futures determined by their context. We want them to aspire for greatness, and ideally, with some support, they could kind of loosen up the way they think about themselves within the broader world. Thank you, and we'll take questions.
Yes.
One of the questions that comes to my mind is these are first-generation college students, so they haven't had the experience, a lot of them haven't had the experience of travel, and yet they're going on their own to big cities, and they're traveling by themselves, and they're using public transportation, and they're eating out. That sounds very intimidating to me, not only from a personal perspective of how do I manage that, but also how do I get the most out of that experience if I'm a first-generation person?
Yeah, so these cultural experiences are very important to the students. One of the things that's great about our program is the alumni network that we have, and that it is a continued program. So we have a lot of support from our firms. Oftentimes, they will extend the experience outside the working hours and offer to meet with students upon arrival, meet with them for dinner. Some have even offered to host the students. In addition to that, we have students going together. So, there might be a number of students that are going to New York or going to Los Angeles, and through that they can room together or navigate the city together. So I think that aids in that experience of, that first time where a student is exposed to that new city.
I find that to be exhilarating, personally. You know, the first time I was dropped in Europe, I couldn't speak the language. I had one person with me, but I enjoyed being off by myself in the city and trying to figure out how to navigate it. I think as a design student, many of them look at the world in that way and are looking for those chances and maybe just never put themselves there. The other thing is, it goes back to that confidence thing. Once you're in the situation, you figure out actually you can do a lot more than you ever thought you could. And so they return with this kind of awareness of self in an experience like that. We're also in constant contact with them, so if they had an issue, they'd let us know.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Should be good to go. So that one's off. Good feedback.
Okay, ladies, I think the best way to do this, if you will take out the 5 presentations we've heard this morning, and we're going to start with number 1. And I just want to make sure if there are questions or there are things that need to be clarified or comments, then we will take this in the progression that we heard from the presenters this morning. So the very first presenter this morning was from the College of Agriculture. It's a green sheet. Any comments, any questions? Kathy?
I just want to speak to this one because I think, I don't know Dr. Jackson really, but I would guess that she would say public speaking is not her forte. I want to say also that we had great proposals this year, and this one doesn't ask for very much money. And the reason I want to speak to this one is, she said this program had been going on for a long time. I took this study tour nearly 50 years ago, and it changed my life. I was first generation, and at that time we had to do an independent research mini project as a part of, before we went to research and investigate things while we were on the study tour, and then come back and write a paper, an original research paper. It changed the course of my life from being a teacher to getting a PhD, and it changed the course of my life from living most of my life overseas. We all have our biases. My own bias is to make an impact in these kids' lives, and I think that would make an impact with this proposal, as many of them, but there's
Town. Any questions or comments about that? What I'm going to ask you to do after we finish this discussion is to rank the first 5. It will help you when you get to the end of the day. If you rank your first 5 and then this afternoon you can rank your second 5 and then combine, it keeps that that burden of being at the end of the day and being brain dead and thinking, oh my gosh, what did that one say? What did that one say? So any questions or comments about number 2? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where is Janie? Did she leave? Janie? Where is she? Janie Heath? Janie Heath? She must have gone. She did speak briefly about the mentors that are identified during that weekend, so I assume that was some kind of ongoing connection. Any other comments about number 2? Yes, ma'am.
I think they have that SMASH program in place, which was started by the
That's correct.
and where they're mentoring each other. And so I think there is an avenue that once they do the training, that they can then loop it back through because it'll be some of the leaders out of that SMASH program that will
Right. The mentors. Yeah.
The other thing is that, you know, right now, resiliency training is a big thing for hospitals. And it's because the hospitals have such turnover of staff and such difficulty maintaining people in the profession. It kind of reminds me of women in philanthropy. It's like one step forward and two steps back, you know. The College of Nursing doubled their baccalaureate enrollment with no additional funds about 4 or 5 years ago. They graduate 2 classes a year now. So I think they've really made an effort to turn out as many quality BSN graduates as they could, but it's difficult to keep people in the hospital. And right now, the hospitals are spending a lot of money in doing this resiliency training.
Right.
But nobody's ever started it back in undergraduate to try to give the people the foundation to do it before they go to the hospital and kind of get already burned out. And
Gotcha.
hospital issues.
Right. Thank you, Vicki, for that explanation. One more comment briefly.
I just think the advantages of this one are the large number of students that would be impacted, 100 students would be involved in this. And also, I just think we need to give credit for taking the initiative to create something new.
Yeah.
It should grow into something much bigger and more sophisticated, but I love the idea of starting a new program.
Yeah. And ladies, let me just stop you. I'm not asking for you to speak for or against. We don't have time for that. I'm asking if you have questions about the presentation, anything that was said that is still unclear in your mind, okay? Because I know we all have preferences and pluses and minuses. So, yes.
Okay, so to be clear, we have what we're voting on these proposals in order. Our top one is 1, or our top one is,
Our top one is 1.
so 1 through
10.
10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead, Bob.
And the way the funding goes, we have a pool of money, however how many members we have, and we will tally up everyone's rankings, and then with the lowest ranking will become the number 1, and we'll just keep going down until we've given all the money away, and for this year, and whatever is left, and there's always some left over, whoever is next on the list, we contact them to see if they can use that money. Usually they can, often it's for scholarships or whatever. If their original proposal was they're going to give 10 scholarships, but there's only money for 5, usually they'll take that money and for the 5 scholarships. So if they would tell us, well, no, that really doesn't suit our project, we'll go to the next one. Now, if there are, for example, 2 projects that I think are heads and tails above everything, can I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the other?
No. You have to rank them one. You cannot pull your numbers. You have to rank them 1 through 10. Okay, let's move on. Good question. Smart thinker over here. Any questions about the maestro? We are spending all of our money. Yes, ma'am. That's it. Right. Okay. Okay, hang on. Is that a question about number 3?
It's a question about number 3.
Okay.
He has been funded 50,000, is it?
He was funded $30,000 last year, which was his outreach concert. 2 years ago. Okay. Yeah.
Reporting on the corpus for 4 times.
He was not funded, he did not submit the proposal.
All right. Any questions from the maestro? Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Yes, she has. Yes. Last year she was funded. Different project, but 50,000 last year. Okay? Go to proposal number 4. Number 4 from the College of Engineering. Questions? Yes.
I just want to make a point that if you're wondering what has been funded, you can see for each year on this sheet, it'll tell you for past funding.
Thank you. Any questions on number 4, the engineering proposal? Yes, ma'am. Vicki. Yes. Hang on. Shh. Right, right, yes. No, if they get the most votes, they get the amount that they are requesting. And as it do number 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And the last one, the last proposal from the College of Design. Any questions about that? Did anybody add up the total request from the first 5, the total amount of money? Okay. How much? 431. Do you see why we need 300 people? We're not even halfway through and we've already spent all of our money times 2. Okay. Shh, excuse me, Vicki. Order, please.
It seems like in past years, the amounts were, number one, smaller, or they were.
We can't discuss that right now, past years, okay? I don't want to confuse anybody.
Ask for 50 now.
50 is the limit.
Well, I understand that, and so it just seems like now everybody asks for the limit and then make.
Do you believe in Santa Claus? Yeah.
That is typical, but they do have to, there is a budget attaching, they have to justify it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Before we take our break, I just want to recognize some very special people in the room, and that is our founding members, Patsy, Todd, and Nawana Privet. Would you all please stand? Women and Philanthropy was a dream that they had about 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, and look how far we have come. We also I would like to recognize some of the past chairs. Myra Tobin, right over here, standing. Marie Cull in the back of the room. So thank you all for your vision, your encouragement, and your service. You know, it's really kind of a unique thing when you have somebody as special as Paula Pope who decides to retire. And even though I jokingly said earlier that we haven't voted on it yet, and in the event that we're back in 18 and she's here, you know we didn't approve that. But in the event she's not here in 2018, we wanted to, in our own special way in Women in Philanthropy, to say thank you to Paula. So Jessica, will you join me up here, please? And Miss Paula Pope, now I get emotional. Would you join me up here, please? So on behalf of all of us, we thank you for everything you've done, everything you mean to Women in Philanthropy, and enjoy your special time. And then I want to say, Lisa Atkinson, would you please stand? Lisa is Paula's replacement for our liaison with the Office of Development. And Lisa has been well trained. She's been involved for a couple of years, and we're going to look forward to working with her. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you very much.
She's going to open it. She's going to open it. Paula has so many gifts, but I cannot forget the time, I don't remember what we were having, but she made the chocolate dipped strawberries herself for our meeting. So she is a good cook. What? That's why what? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that's when we all come to your house for dinner. Right. So, Paula, thanks again. We love you dearly. Ladies, the buffet is back there. There'll be 2 lines, and we will resume our presentations in 1 hour. So.